Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops 3 In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about a Vesper and VMP counter weapon, which, surprise, is the Pharaoh. This is a very underrated weapon in Black Ops 3. As a matter of fact, it's always been an underrated weapon. It hasn't been affected very much by nerfs or buffs because it's been in a good spot balance-wise, and it's always been a little bit underused, which is unfortunate. So today's episode is going to kind of run like a sales pitch, and we're going to be doing a lot of comparative stats instead of direct numbers, talking about the Pharaoh, Vesper, and VMP. The first comparative stat I want to look at is the rate of fire, at least the burst rate of fire for the Pharaoh, which is 900 rounds per minute. That is very fast for a burst weapon, even in Black Ops 3. The Vesper can, of course, fire faster at 1200 rounds per minute, but the Pharaoh actually bursts at the exact same speed of the Vesper of 900 rounds per minute. Now, when you factor in that there is a delay between the bursts, the overall combined rate of fire will be lower, but it is interesting to look at these numbers because these are the ones you can use for raw time to kill when it comes to that first burst for accurate players. I would also like to point out a unique fact about the Pharaoh is that it can 3-shot kill. Even though it's a 4-round burst weapon, you can actually get a 3-shot kill with it up close up to 6.5 meters. The VMP and Vesper cannot 3-shot kill at all, regardless of the range, and the 3-shot kill range after the most recent patch is now 2.5 times that of the Kuda, so it's actually got a very impressive 3-shot kill range, just most people kind of forget about that fact. When you're looking at range and time to kill over ranges, the Pharaoh pretty much holds it down in top spot over most of the ranges for submachine guns. For ranges less than 7 meters, which is your close quarters combat, the Pharaoh will be holding it down at 122 milliseconds, which is a little bit faster than the Vesper and significantly faster than the VMP at 150 and 198 milliseconds respectively. When we bump up our ranges to ranges less than 20 meters, which is about the range that you want to be using most SMGs to begin with, it's 198 for the Pharaoh. The Vesper still is performing quite well at 200 milliseconds, so not much difference there, but it's still outperforming the VMP. However, at these longer ranges, the Vesper is going to be much more difficult to aim, whereas the Pharaoh is quite easy. To give you an idea of the ranges, this is the maximum 1 burst kill range. I just chose this little spot here on Hunted, which is kind of impressive. And this is the range at which you can reliably double burst people if you're accurate, which can kill them very, very quickly. And in many cases, I feel that it outperforms most of the non-burst fire assault rifles in Black Ops 3. Normally, you would expect me to pitch the range attributes of the Pharaoh and be like, well, it's not as good as the Vesper, but it's great at long ranges, blah, 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 and that's kind of true, but the Pharaoh can actually be very nasty in close quarters combat if you can get your first shots on, as you saw by the time to kill, but it's also tied for fastest handling in the submachine gun category. It's got an aim down sights time of 200 milliseconds and a sprint out time of 250 milliseconds. The only SMGs that really compete with this are the Vesper of this category, and it handles significantly better than the VMP and Kuda and Razorback and some of those, so you can actually get some very nice fast reaction out of it. It's also the second most accurate submachine gun in the game, right after the Razorback. I feel the Razorback probably is overall higher in accuracy, because like most of the burst weapons in Black Ops 3, this one has a tendency to wobble a little bit after your shot. In order to decrease that, I often run a foregrip with it. It decreases the per shot recoil, which is what you're really more interested in. The weapon has a very high center speed, actually tied for highest in the SMG class, but that's not as important since it almost resets after each burst. You can run the boa sight on it, which is nice and it does feel good, but if you're really going for that pure laser accuracy, it's got to be the Varix. I know the Varix is bulky, I know not a lot of people like it, but when it comes to numbers, it's very, very difficult to beat. And I should also point out that the Pharaoh has a slightly tighter hipfire spread than the VMP and the Vesper. Yes, that's correct. This one performs a little bit better hipfire-wise, especially when you're standing, compared to the VMP and the Vesper. It's not the biggest difference, but if you're running around hip-firing and you're trying to get those kind of lucky shots in, it can add up. So, looking at the Pharaoh, it's got a faster time to kill than either of the two popular SMGs. It's got a better hipfire spread than either of the two popular SMGs. It's more accurate than either of them, and it has better range than either of them. So why isn't this weapon more popular? What's its weakness? Is it reload time? No. Does it have some sort of goofy magazine like the MX Garand? No, its only true downside is that it is a burst fire weapon, which means that these awesome time to kill numbers will be significantly decreased if you miss, because you add time waiting for your follow-up burst. This can make the weapon feel very inconsistent at times if you don't get a full burst in on somebody and you have to wait for the follow-up burst. As a burst fire weapon in Black Ops 3, it is also subject to that old-fashioned COD wobbliness, as I would like to call it, that wonkiness. I feel, especially when I'm using something like the Dredge in the M8A7, that not all of my shots connect the way they should, and when I'm using the XR2, my sights have a tendency to wobble more than I feel they should for a burst fire weapon. So this one does struggle from those downsides in that you might feel like you've hit 4 shots when, according to Black Ops 3 land, it's only 2 or 3, and that is not a great feeling. A lot of people do not prefer this weapon because consistency is not a thing that it does great, at least not online. If you're going to LAN, if you plan to play at COD Champs or MLG Orlando, which is already over, or some of these other kind of events, you're going to have a much better performance here because you'll get way less bullets dropping or not registering. And I think that this is an excellent weapon to consider if you're sick of getting killed by the VMP, if you're sick of getting killed by the Vesper, if you're sick of the standard submachine gun meta. I would strongly recommend you just give the Pharaoh a try. You should try it out with foregrip and one of the recoil reducing optics, and I think that you will have a very good time. Guys, that's all for this episode of In Depth. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.